Uh, it's been a while. I've been playing a lot of Monster Hunter Wilds recently. Straight away, I want to say I'm loving the game. I think I have about 55 hours or so, and I'm about Hunter rank 59, I believe. So we cleared the main missions, we saw the story, and we're well into high rank now. So, for my brief history with Monster Hunter, I did play the original Monster Hunter on the PlayStation 2 way back when. I didn't get too much into it, probably only put 10, maybe 15 hours in, and kind of just the novelty of playing games online on my PlayStation was enough to make me interested, but I didn't put too much time into it. I actually didn't own a PSP until much later, so I didn't play any of the PSP games initially. The first one I really got into was Monster Hunter 3U for the 3DS. I bought that right before I came to Japan, played it on the airplane 10 or 15 hours, and from there I was hooked. And of course I followed that up with 4U, and that would probably be the first Monster Hunter game where I put hundreds and hundreds of hours in. Of course, I would then go on to play World, again hundreds of hours, played with my friends, loved the game, and eventually I would get Rise on the Nintendo Switch, and it's the same story. So you could say I'm a Monster Hunter enjoyer, for sure. I've always done switch axe, I've dabbled with other weapons a little bit, but basically from 3U to now, it's always been switch axe. So, I want to get the obvious things out of the way first. The performance. I'm not playing on PC, I'm playing on a standard PlayStation 5. It could definitely look better, and it could definitely run better. I'm playing in the balanced mode of capped 40 FPS. It looks okay. I'm not offended by it. Not the worst looking game ever by far, but also not the best looking game. And yeah, by comparison, I can kind of understand the people who think Monster Hunter World on the PlayStation 5 with the PS4 Pro update looks and feels better. I can understand that. I want to move on to some of the stuff that I loved about this game now. So, as usual, Capcom's character creator is amazing. We saw this in Dragon's Dogma 2, we saw this in Street Fighter 6, all the way back to Monster Hunter World. Rise was pretty good. Capcom definitely knows what they're doing in this department. If you want to make a character that looks like there's a pretty good selection of hairstyles, skin tones, facial features. You can make something pretty close. I guess the only limitations would be weight, height, but as far as the face and hair go, I think there's enough there to cover a wide range of people. The choice to not gender lock any version of any gear. So this is just like every other Monster Hunter game where the male and female versions of armor look sometimes very different, but the difference in this game is you can choose which one you want to wear, and a lot of the times you're going to end up mixing and matching from the male and the female, or sorry, the A and the B as it's described in this game. And it just works surprisingly well. Once you hit high rank, every piece of gear you craft is automatically added to your layered armor list, and that includes both versions, the A and the B, and that just adds double the amount of equipment you're going to want to craft. Obviously the stats are exactly the same for both versions, but in a lot of cases you're going to want to craft both just to have the option for fashion in the future. So, one of the biggest differences this time around is there's a very strong focus on the story. The game really wants you to see the story. The game really wants you to finish the story campaign. And for some people that's going to be a plus, and I know for a lot of people that might be a minus. The story itself is not bad. It's pretty standard Monster Hunter, and the volume of it I think is maybe going to be a lot more than Monster Hunter fans are used to. There's a lot of high quality cutscenes and the voice acting is pretty good. We're still getting these funny cutscenes to introduce each of the monsters. It's just, there's like 5-10 minutes of other stuff in between, and yeah, you might not enjoy that. Personally, I just thought it was fine. There's a lot of world building in there, and I think the characters are more interesting this time around compared to World or Rise. But yeah, could I have done without it? Absolutely. I'm really just here for the monster hunting. And I may be in the minority here, but I don't like how much my character talks in these cutscenes. Ideally, he would be a silent protagonist, because this guy never stops talking, and I'm constantly thinking, I wouldn't say that. That's not me. Who is this guy? That doesn't sound like me. It doesn't help that, especially with the English voices, they're all very unique, so very specific. So if your character doesn't really, match that voice, it's gonna be a bit jarring just to watch your guy talk. I switched to the Japanese pretty early on, and that's equally weird, but I think the voices are a bit more broad, if you will, on the Japanese side of things. I just wish there was an option to not have any dialogue for my character. So, the gameplay. Let's get into the gameplay. This game, if you played Monster Hunter World, or even Rise to a certain extent, your muscle memory is going to kick in for sure. The way you gather items, the way you mount monsters, even the way most of the weapons play, with the exception of like a few new features, is basically the same as it was in World or even Rise. And yeah, it feels good. There's no clutch claw, there's no wire bug, but this time around we do have the focus attacks and the wound system. And I do think if I had to choose one of the three, I mean, I loved some of those wire bug attacks in Rise, but it doesn't feel quite the same, does it? But Monster Hunter Wilds definitely feels like Monster Hunter. Everything feels like Monster Hunter. Yeah, the focus attacks are great, and being able to aim better, slightly better in some cases, I don't think is a detriment to the game. I think it's a nice feature, and I use it constantly. I'm all for it. So before this game even released, there was a lot of discussion about difficulty and game length. About the game length, I heard 15 hours, I heard 20 hours in some of these reviews. A lot of these reviews, actually, and I don't know how you quote-unquote finish the game in 15, 20 hours. I don't believe it. I don't buy it for a minute. I currently have, 55, 60 hours in this game, and I think I just recently really finished the story campaign. There's still a few optional quests I haven't done. As far as I know, maybe more unlock after I complete these, but there's definitely easily 100 hours in this game, in its current state. And sure, we've come to expect a certain kind of experience when it comes to Monster Hunter. We expect to play hundreds of hours, if not thousands of hours. And while Capcom does seem to be leaning into the live service type of game, they've never actually advertised Monster Hunter as that. I don't think it's reasonable to complain about a game having only 100 hours of gameplay when that's pretty standard, or in most cases that's above average, well above average. You could make an argument that the quality of the campaign is not quite on par with other games. Obviously, I think the gameplay is there. It's better than most games. But yeah, if you want to say the story is lacking and that's your argument, I don't disagree with that. I try to put my shoes... I try to put myself in the shoes of someone who maybe never played a Monster Hunter game. They picked this up as kind of a fun action RPG where they hunt monsters, you did the campaign in what, 30, 40, 50 hours. How would you feel at the end of it? I think relatively satisfied. While the story is kind of goofy, a little bit slow at times, I think the boss fights make up for it. Like the monster hunts make up for it. It's just really good Monster Hunter gameplay. The other point that was really discussed before this game came out was the difficulty. Is it too easy? This game is too easy. There's no challenge in this game. It's way too easy. And on that point, yeah, and this is purely anecdotal, but I will say, in comparison to Rise even, or World, or 4U, or 3U, the games that I really played, I'm not even going to go back to the first Monster Hunter. Yeah, I basically breezed through this game. I don't think I lost a quest. I think in my entire 55-60 hours of gameplay, I had one quest fail, and that was an SOS I joined without really checking the details. I joined an SOS. Old buddy had 2 carts already, and it was a Rathalos actually. And yeah, I arrived, jumped off my mount, and like within the first 15-20 seconds, he died again, and it was a quest fail. I was just surprised to even see the screen. I didn't know it existed in this game. Yeah, there's no denying this game is significantly easier than previous iterations. But I do think that's by design. I think they wanted players to play through the whole campaign, feel like they finished the game, feel like they hadn't wasted $70. Because if you look at the statistics for previous Monster Hunter games, a lot of new players would have fallen off long before the credits, long before the final boss. I'm curious to see what the stats on this game end up looking like. So I do understand the decision, and I think I agree with the decision, but I do hope that these title updates, these future monsters, really up the difficulty a little bit. The game feels good. It feels like Monster Hunter. Everything's there. All of the elements are there. We just need a little more, just a bit more of a challenge. I'm getting too comfortable playing this game. You really don't have to bother with upgrading your gear at all through the campaign, which is pretty typical of Monster Hunter. Low rank doesn't matter so much, but you can basically fight everything in this game and not worry too much about what you're using or upgrading what you're using, and that kind of removes from the overall loop of Monster Hunter, right? You're supposed to want to craft something so you can do better. So I do hope these title updates resolve that issue. Love Mizutsune, excited to see him in April, and I guess that'll be the test. I do think this game has a lot going for it already. The amount of detail in the world, for example, is miles above Monster Hunter World was. They really took what they were trying to do with Monster Hunter World and took it to the next level. I don't understand the decision to go quote-unquote open world, because it's basically like every other Monster Hunter where you have these segmented areas you travel to for hunts. You're going to teleport to the base camp. You're not going to ever really travel from zone to zone outside of the story, and they're only connected by these very narrow corridors. So I don't know, maybe in the future that's implemented in some meaningful way, but for now I really have no idea why they would even bother connecting the zones. It's not even obvious they're connected. So that was a strange choice, and if it's compromising the performance of the game as well, then maybe it was a terrible choice. I don't hate the idea of an open world Monster Hunter, but this just isn't that. I'm glad we have the Gathering Hub coming. It should have been in the game already, but whatever. Coming in April, next month, no big deal. I would like player housing. That was one of my favorite things in Monster Hunter World. I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority. Maybe no one cared, but hey, I'd like to have a little house to... Especially with this game, they've gone so far on customizing everything. The base... the pop-up camp, the mount, your palico, your character. You can customize everything, so I'd love to see how they implement player housing in this game. And yeah, that's a way to monetize your game. You know, I'll buy that sofa. I'm the one that's gonna buy that sofa. I'll buy it. $10, I'll buy it. I do hope that we end up getting a lot more monsters in the title updates. I mean, yeah, we don't necessarily need new monsters. We could have some variants of the ones in the game and a couple of new ones sprinkled in here and there. Obviously, difficulty is a concern as well, but I'm pretty confident Capcom knows what they're doing in that regard. I think a year from now, we're gonna be enjoying this game. We're gonna be loving the game. As long as they fix those performance issues, especially on the PC version. And I mean, I wouldn't mind a patch on the PlayStation version, to be honest. Like, it's a bit rough. The game's done so amazing already, and I can't help but wonder how much better it would have done if the performance issues were not there. Anyway, the game is great. The game is great. I don't really have anything else to say. I love the game. I do hope they improve the performance. I do hope they improve the difficulty. I do hope they have a lot of content planned for the future and the inevitable expansion. I'm all in. I'm in full support of what they do with this game in the future. Sorry, I know it's been a long time since I last updated. I have a couple of videos I'm working on very slowly, but I realize I do need to mix it up a bit. So I'm trying to do more easy, quote-unquote easy videos like this one, just talking into the mic, throw some footage in the background, upload it. Whereas I spend a lot of time editing and recording some of the other videos I'm working on, but I need to strike a balance and try to be more consistent. If you want to play Monster Hunter with me, if you want to be in the squad, let me know in the comments and I'll see if I can sort something out. Please like and or subscribe. I stream on Twitch occasionally. Typically I'm streaming art and not gameplay, but been playing a lot of Monster Hunter, so there is a chance I might be streaming Monster Hunter at some point. Tell me your thoughts on the game in the comments. You loving it? You hating it? Have you played a Monster Hunter game before this one? If so, how does it stack up? Is this your first Monster Hunter game? If so, do you think it's easy or is it difficult? Thanks for watching and take care.